Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions, where we are critical, not cynical, of the music we listen to. I'm your host, Bryan, and we're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. There's a link in the description if you have your own song that you'd like to submit for the program. Today's comes at us from John. It says, Aeon, Forgiveness Denied, the only death metal song that I felt some tears while watching the video. All right, let's dive into this. We got some Aeon ahead of us. The thumbnail here is not really instilling swelling of the eye, swelling of the tears, bringing tears to the eyes. This looks more murderousy, but we'll dive into it and see what's going on. Let's see what Aeon is bringing to the table.
On your knees you plead forgiveness enough.
Just the raw speed and precision.
And the garment of Christ, holding the word of your God in your hand, preaching them all to your kind.
Really interesting, all of the speed and ferocity of the bands,
The words do not please you anymore.
and the slowness in the vocals.
Christians gospel on your knees.
Really going for that textural feeling kind of metal. Not a lot of melodic components. And of course, as I say that, we get this extended guitar melody. Not very technical though, lots of sweeping throughout that with a harmony on top. Going for a triplet feel. Did you just say forgiveness denied? Did I hear growls? Enunciation in there? Yeah, I'm picking up a lot of words. This is impressive. Getting a bit of a groove there. What is... Okay, so we doubled our bass kicks, but cut to halftime on everything else. That was wow. Trying to figure that out. We have like a 4 against 3 polyrhythm with 3 bars, and then there's like there's a time signature shift at the end. It's getting real gnarly. Lots of metric mod. Oh, that ride symbol? Yeah, so that was bonkers. And also, I'm probably gonna have to do this in post and add a content warning at the beginning of this one. Um, so we just had 4 minutes of raw aggression and speed and just energy. I don't think there was a single moment of that track where our guitarists, other than the solos, which backed it down just a little bit, where our guitarists and drummers were not just going full on as fast as they could on something, whether it was strumming on the guitars or this ride cymbal, the bass kicks, as far as the drums concerned. Even our vocalist got into a bit of the speed and intensity about halfway into the track. We shifted from quarter and eighth notes for our rhythmic structure that comprised our vocal lines and pushed into faster ideas. Um, and of course, when you pair all of the continuous attacks from our guitar and drum with the vocal texture, that really low guttural, you get something that is quite an abrasive sound. Every bit of it is abrasive. Um, I want to look at the guitars real quick. We'll touch on the drums. Was there a bass in this? I didn't hear one, and I, as usual, kind of flipping back and forth between really focusing on the music and watching a little bit of the video. I didn't see a bassist, but again, I didn't watch every piece of the video, so it's possible I missed it. I didn't hear a bass though. But we're going to touch on the guitars, hit the drums, loop back to the vocals, and then hit the lyrics, I suppose. So the guitar parts, this was interesting because we were about a minute and a half into the track, and I had mentioned that the guitars were primarily going for that textural, rule of cool, just really, powerful metal riffs. We have quite a few gallops, a little bit of riding on a pedal tone before moving around other ideas and returning back to the pedal. And pretty much everything is based around that. Does it sound cool? Does it sound edgy? Does it have that metal power behind it? All right, let's do it and play it fast. Lots of fast picking on this one. And right as I made the comment that that's the style of riffage that we're going with here, flip the script on me. We move into a very melodic guitar solo. This first one was primarily composed of sweep picking, which is for those who aren't guitarists, you start on either one, or I mean, you can start on any string, I suppose, but you sweep down and you sweep up, and you sweep down and you sweep up, and you're basically always changing strings, always going up or down strings. And it's sort of like this sweeping idea, I suppose, is where the name comes from. But the entire solo was comprised of that. It was fairly clean. I'm curious, what year did this come out? Why don't I don't have any year on this? June of 2010. That's, assuming this was 2010, not uploaded in 2010. Um, that's pretty impressive for the time. I remember sweep picking was coming out as a popular technique around the mid 2000s, is where the technique came into my periphery, my understanding of guitar playing. I had never heard anything up to that point, but it seemed at that point like every band was trying to do it, and a lot of bands were. There is a little sloppy. Sweep picking takes a lot of precision between both of your hands to really nail it. And there were only a couple guitarists at the time, at least, again, as far as I was aware of, that were really hitting it extremely cleanly. I mean, the Human Abstracts guitarist AJ Minette pretty much made his name on it. That first album of theirs, Nocturne, is filled with it. And that was one of the first times that I heard it done extremely cleanly. And this was only a few years after that. So I don't know how quickly guitarists mastered this from those mid 2000s to the late 2000s, early 2010s. But yeah, this was exceptionally clean. Um, just very well done, especially to build the whole solo off of it at this tempo. Um, However, the whole solo was built off of it, so while melodically it was fairly pleasing, especially as a contrast to where we had come from, it is a sort of one note solo, and I really wanted it to evolve, to do something else. And maybe that's not the point of it. We hit the lyrics, and I'm like, oh, this the constant aggression of the sweet picking. This was, it ties into the themes or something. Um, However, our second guitar solo does go into a bit more of a traditionally melodic style of writing with breaks and pauses, allowing the solo itself, the melody, to breathe and have pacing to it. Well, I should say have a different pacing. Constantly moving forward with the sweep picking is a type of pacing for sure. It's a very quick pacing. Um, the other guitar solo was sort of the opposite of that. Had some nice breathing, and even that, just the contrast between the two guitar solos, I think works very well. Um, and that's pretty much all the guitar work here wrapped up. You have speed and intensity and some melodic components, and we kind of get a little bit of each, but primarily this is a rule of cool style of riff writing. Just trying to get those very memorable, metal, gritty, edgy kind of riffs. Now the drumming, dude, just is a machine. Um, the raw precision that goes into this, and the uh what is it, the endurance to keep this up, assuming that even they do this. I mean, this one song, it's pretty impressive, at least to me, even just 4 minutes of keeping up this intensity. The 16th, 32nd notes, I think, even at one point on the double bass kicks, um, and the blast beats, and just keeping all that up, and your legs and your arms not getting tired for 4 minutes is impressive. You do it for a 30, 60 minute show. I mean, I'm going to assume the rest of their music is like this. They seem to be a death metal band, and that's the type of music death metal makes, or can make. It's a slightly varied genre. Yeah, it's just, uh, sometimes I wonder, do you just wake up one day as a drummer and you're like, yeah, I want to make my feet go like this for an hour long. I want to work up the endurance to that. And so you just do it, or is it just like an innate ability? You get on the drums and your legs just don't get tired. You're like, I was built for this. Let's play some death metal. I just ah, it just blows my mind. Like I can't even fathom having this type of endurance. And I know it's probably something that takes a lot of work to retain. I'm sure these people, you know, warm up and practice and train and work out their muscles, keep them loose and limber, and retain that endurance in their muscles and all. It's not something that you just passively retain, but it's still just mind-boggling the levels that people push the human body to achieve art. It's wild. Um, but it's not just about that aggression, and this is why I really was excited to bring up the drums. If we look at just the snare and bass kick work, there is a ton of just constant attacks in there. But there's also this lightness coming from the cymbals. It's used a bit sparingly, but it's really well done. And there's some fun sections. There's a ride cymbal part that I pointed out that was utilized varying groups of hits at like 16th notes or something like that. It was very fast, but it wasn't just straight. It was like a five group and then a one beat rest, and then like a group of four and then a rest and then like three, and it was just this really like groovy, um, higher range percussion aspect on top of just the raw aggression coming out underneath it. Um, yeah, absolutely phenomenal. I love that. I think the aggression of death metal, the percussion, I think just have a really easy time bringing that out. You just hit your instrument a lot, but there's something about pairing the power and speed and intensity with that lightness. It's the same thing I praised Umgwa about with their cymbal work. There's just something about putting that aspect on top. And it's not just playing it straight, because I think that kind of ties into the intensity. There's got to be a rhythmic component to it that runs juxtaposed to the straight 8th or 16th or 32nd notes that you're doing elsewhere on the kit. And just having that juxtaposition there between the constant intensity and still having the speed, but having a rhythmic pattern to it and putting the two next to each other, it just always works for me. And I can't really put into words why, but it always sounds so good. And I loved it here. It only happened like once or twice, but yeah, it's phenomenal. The vocals were wild. I picked up words and lines. I'm not sure how much of that is on the production side, how much is on the performance side. I'm going to say probably a little bit of both, but there's a lot of clarity in the words. So many sentences I heard clear as day. I I don't even know where to go from that. It's just I heard it. It's mind-boggling. I listen to stuff like this all the time. You guys show me, all these different death metal bands and more extreme styles of metal with all these gutturals and harshes, and I'm like, I get the musical component, the texture and the rhythm and the timbre of it, but so rarely do I pick up any lyrics, and I heard them. Is that my ear? Is it their production? Is it his performance? I'm not sure, but it was cool. Just doesn't happen. But yeah, that's neat. That doesn't happen often. But also, additionally, a part of the performance I want to talk about is the precision of those really quick hits in the latter half of the track. He did it like twice, I think. Just really lining up with what the band is doing, because other than that moment, a lot of it is this juxtaposed eighth notes idea and quarter notes idea that runs so far counter to what the band is doing. You get all this speed and aggression from the band, and the vocals are like you get a sentence every few bars or whatever. They've played a million notes, and you've said 10 syllables in the time. And that juxtaposition is really cool because given that the vocals are not melodic based, they're entirely textual and rhythmic. Having that counter rhythm is very nice. It provides a little bit of change in the song. If everybody was doing the speed throughout the whole track, I mean, it would be cool, definitely. I mean, just having that precision in the vocal work, and he did do that at the end, and that's something that I was beginning to talk about before coming back on this. But just having both sides and having a little bit of that counter, it just, to me, it fills out the song a little bit and allows it to have a little bit more of a shift over time, so that when we do get into the quicker vocals in the end, it feels more aggressive and has punch compared to where we're from. I mean, this is just contrast 101, but yeah, going back to the idea though of those really quick hits and the sharpness and articulation in them, I mean, that's just so good. I'm curious what those syllables are. I don't know if I'm going to be able to even pair them in the lyrics, because that was the one point when I began to not be able to hear the words anymore. So much going on. But um, yeah, I'm curious if there's anything in there that gets a bit tongue twistery. Not necessarily because they're difficult to say normally, but they're difficult to say in that vocal style at that speed. The last thing I want to talk about before we hit the vocals is, I mean, the lyrics, that part near the end. Wow. Oh, actually, there's two more. You know what? I'm gonna wrap it up into here. Metric modulation. There is not even, there's actually meter modulation going on in here as well. So many of these lines feel like they do 4 bars of one time signature, and then they wrap it up with a time signature that's different. And I couldn't always figure out what that was. Sometimes I felt like it was actually a tempo thing. Other times we had meter modulation because we would have these constant 16th notes, which would showcase the emphasized downbeats. So that would give us like a quarter note pulse. And then we would move into like a triplet feel, or even maybe even some other tuplet. Sometimes I don't think they were always triplets. Sometimes they might have been fivelets. I don't know the word for that. Anyways, when you put 5 notes into a beat. Um, and it always felt like we were going at like massive speed, and then we would drag out for a little bit, and then go massive speed and then drag out for a different kind of little bit. There's always this fluctuation at the end of these 4 bar phrases. It's like I said, I tried so many times to figure it out, and I never picked up a pattern. And even some other times I never picked up the time signature of the bar because they're isolated. It's very difficult when everything changes, when it feels like your meter, your time signature, and even what type of note gets the beat all shift at the same time, and you only have 1 bar to figure it out before you're back into the mix. It's a lot to pick up on one try. There's absolutely no landmarks I could find, which made it difficult. Tempo landmarks or time signature landmarks, none of that. So yeah, there's a lot of that throughout the track. Little modulations here and there that change up the feeling of the song every so often. But what was really cool was when we did this stretch and squish idea. I don't know. It was the final section of the track, I think it was, and I had talked about it directly. I said that we were doing this one thing, and we double timed the bass kicks. We went from like 16th notes to 32nd notes on the bass kicks, but everything else, our pulse, our core pulse went into halftime. So it felt like we didn't just double up the bass kicks, we quadrupled the number of bass kicks. And I think there might have even been a small tempo change there as well, just to make it feel a little different, which also made it feel even more difficult to figure out what actually happened. But once I did, I mean, that was just a fascinating shift right there. Um, and talk about going into overdrive. I talk about double time every once in a while. You basically give the illusion of doubling the tempo. If everybody plays twice as often, instead of 4 beats every bar or 4 hits every bar, you do 8 hits every bar. It feels like you're playing twice as fast, even though your tempo hasn't changed. That's double time or double time feel. And it does a fantastic job of making the song feel like it has ramped up. We also do halftime, which is where you play half as many notes and it makes it feel like we've cut our tempo in half. This felt like quadruple because our pulse got cut in half, but our notes got doubled. So it feels like there's a 4 times difference between where we were and where we are now. And that's just phenomenal. I mean, talk about ramping it up into overdrive. I don't think I've heard a single metal band do that yet. And that was just heart racing. Talk about a great use of multiple modulations to achieve a specific sound. And then to finish the song off with that level of intensity. I mean, yeah. I think Wild undersells just how much of a tempo shift or a feel shift is really what it was. A time feel shift that was at the end, and just the masterful use of multiple compositional tools to achieve that. So yeah, that was just bonkers. Let's hit some lyrics, and then we'll head out of here. Um, on your knees, you plead forgiveness. Denied. You say that you are the link between man, God, and the carpenter Christ, holding the words of your God in your hand, preaching them all to your kind. Those empty words do not please you anymore. Young skin is what you lust for. So, yeah, I mean, it was in the music video. Pretty on the nose right here in the final line. We're talking about somebody's hatred for a priest or somebody else in the church who has, well, giving that it says they've been preaching the words. I'm going to say that it's a priest who has abused a young child, and this child does not forgive them for their actions against them. Priest, you disgust me on your knees. Plead for forgiveness. Forgiveness denied. So yeah, there's a lots of vengeance in here. And there's a lot of wanting to feel the pain that possibly they felt in this priest. Oh yeah, he even actually states right out to priest. Doesn't just want to hurt them. I want you on your knees and pleading for forgiveness, despite already knowing they're not going to grant this forgiveness. But they want the priest to be in this position where they're, sincerely asking for forgiveness of their actions. You are the worst kind of liar that is. You deceive your people with lies. How can you stand there and preach about life while crushing a defenseless child, touching young children, and even your own? Priest bastard, I want you dead. Aggression, right? The music lines up so well with the emotion that our narrator is showcasing in their the vocal performance here. Execute the bastard priest. Do not listen to his plead. If it was all up to me, the priest bastard, he would not live. I would show no mercy. Shove his Jesus up his ass. Fill his lungs with holy water. I invite your victims so they can all join the slaughter. Lots of repetition. You must be put to death, a horrible, painful death. Die. Maybe your God forgives you and your religion too, but I know I want you dead and your religion too. You serve no purpose here. Purest bastards, I want you dead. Yeah, I don't think there's any a second level of reading there. It's very surface level, um, very raw emotion as well. We're not looking at anything complex or complicated. There is anger and rage that is crafted from pain and suffering and what's that word? Trauma. And all of this anger and rage that came from this trauma is being physically directed, or at least in this case, verbally directed. The music video implied there's a physical aspect as well, but in the music, we just have a vocal projection of this pain and wanting to harm this person, wanting them to be in the same place they were, making them feel as small as they did. And of course, this ties in perfectly with the music. It is a very aggressive, whirlwind, powerful music style that never quits. It is just this raw aggression that plays in so well with the vocal delivery and the lyrics. So, those are my thoughts on Aeon's Forgiveness Denied. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not. Anything that stood out to you. Anything you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on. Go ahead and put those comments down there. Above the comment section is a description box, and in there is a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. Has links to help support the channel, links to find the communities around the channel, and so much more. Above that, if you could like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. We'll check out some more music. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.